66 million years ago. No phone, no shoes, no 911, just you, standing in a jungle that smells like wet leaves and bad decisions. And somewhere behind you, something the size of a school bus just cracked a branch under its foot. You don't turn around. You don't need to. You already know what it is. A Tyrannosaurus Rex has locked eyes on you from 40 feet away, and it just started sprinting, teeth the size of bananas. 6 tons of pure bad news heading your direction at a speed you really don't want to test. Every instinct in your body is screaming the same 2 words. Run now. Here's the part nobody expects, though. That thing chasing you is basically an overweight linebacker who skipped leg day for 65 million years straight. It's not catching you in a straight line, and it absolutely cannot turn on a dime. So you juke. Hard left, then hard right, weave around a boulder, and watch 6 tons of angry reptile try to pivot without face planting into the dirt. You're not outrunning a monster here. You're just making a very large, very toothy truck attempt to parallel park, and that buys you exactly enough time to live. You duck behind a fallen log, chest heaving, heart doing about 200 beats a minute, and that's when you hear the rustling. Something's moving low in the ferns, fast, and there's more than one of them. Velociraptor. And no, it's not the human-sized, door-opening genius from the movies. That thing was actually modeled on a bigger cousin called Deinonychus, because the real Velociraptor is about the size of a turkey, barely 2 feet tall at the hip. Doesn't sound so scary now, does it? But it's still carrying that curved sickle claw on each foot, and fossil evidence from a specimen frozen mid-fight with a Protoceratops in the Gobi Desert shows it likely used that claw to pin prey down rather than slash it open. One of them, alone, you can handle. A whole pack circling you in the underbrush is a completely different math problem. Lucky for you, you're not alone either. Your group closes ranks, spears out, backs together, and suddenly the turkey-sized ambush predators think twice. That's the whole trick to this entire world. Alone, you're a snack. In a group, with sharp sticks and a plan, you're the scariest thing in the clearing. You push forward, and the ground starts to shake in a completely different way. Slower, heavier, like something the size of a delivery truck just decided to go for a walk nearby. Triceratops, 3 horns forward, a bony frill fanned out like a shield behind its head, somewhere around 12 tons of pure don't bother me energy. Here's the good news. It's not hunting you. It's not even looking at you. Here's the bad news. Paleontologists have actually found fossilized Triceratops frills with healed bite marks from full-grown T-Rex attacks that the Triceratops survived. Read that again. This thing can take a hit from the apex predator of the entire Cretaceous and just keep living its life. You are not winning that fight, so you don't start one. You give it a wide, respectful berth, the exact same way you'd walk around an angry bull elephant back home, and you keep moving. Somewhere off in the distance, something even bigger is casting a shadow that takes way too long to pass. Argentinosaurus, one of the largest land animals to ever exist, estimated at over 70 tons. For context, that's roughly 10 adult elephants stacked into one incredibly patient vegetarian. You are not fighting that. You're barely a rounding error to that. Your entire job here is simple: stay out from under its feet and maybe just admire the fact that something this size exists at all. And then there's the one nobody warns you about, the one that isn't big or loud or dramatic at all. Troodon, small, fast, and possibly the single smartest dinosaur that ever lived based on its brain to body ratio. It's not going to charge you across an open field like a Rex. It's going to notice your campfire from a distance, watch you for a while, and figure out that easy meals show up wherever that orange glow is. The sleeper threat in a world full of monsters usually isn't the biggest monster. It's the smart one paying attention while you're not. A shadow slides across the ground in front of you, and you look up expecting the worst, but it's just a pteranodon gliding overhead, wingspan wider than a car, beak like a javelin, completely uninterested in a ground-dwelling snack when there's fish to snatch out of a nearby lake. Not everything with teeth in this world is hunting you specifically. And honestly, learning to tell the difference between that thing wants to eat me and that thing is just going about its day might be the single most useful skill anyone could have here. Panic at every shadow and you'll exhaust yourself by lunch. Panic at the right shadows and you might actually make it to dinner. Speaking of dinner, you'll need to eat at some point, and this jungle is not exactly stocked with vending machines. The good news is the ground here is soft after last night's rain. And soft ground means perfect tracks, deep, clear, practically a map telling you which animals passed through, how long ago, and how fast they were moving. Rain also means mushrooms, and certain plants explode out of the soil almost overnight. Tubers get easier to dig up, and insects come swarming to the surface looking for their own meal. You're not going hungry out here. You're just going to be eating things that would make a modern nutritionist very concerned and very impressed at the same time. So here's the twist nobody tells you walking into all of this. You're not actually the underdog in this story. Humans didn't spread across every continent on Earth and outlast saber-toothed cats and cave bears the size of cars by being the strongest thing in the room. We won by being the cleverest. And that exact toolkit works just as well here as it did anywhere else in history. Fire is your number one cheat code. Nothing in this entire world has ever evolved a fear of flame, because nothing here has ever seen it controlled before. We know humans were managing controlled fire at least 400,000 years ago at a site called Kesem Cave in Israel, and possibly as far back as 1,000,000 years ago at Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. Drop a fire at the edge of your camp tonight, and you've just installed an invisible wall that absolutely nothing on this planet has any instinct to cross. A T-Rex that's never once seen flame isn't going to casually stroll through it to get to you. And keeping that fire alive is basically a full-time job in itself. You don't just light it and walk away. Someone's feeding it dry branches, someone's shielding it from wind, someone's making sure it never fully dies out overnight, because relighting a fire from absolute scratch isn't guaranteed, especially if you don't have the right tools on hand. That's why groups carried embers with them, wrapped in leaves or packed into a type of woody fungus that could smolder for hours without going out. Basically, an ancient version of carrying a spare lighter in your pocket just in case. Losing your only flame out here isn't an inconvenience. It's a 5-alarm emergency. Running things into the ground is your second cheat code. Humans are freakishly, almost unfairly good long-distance runners, built to sweat, built to cool off while moving, built to keep going, long after almost everything else on 4 legs has collapsed from heat exhaustion. Big Cretaceous predators, for all their raw power, almost certainly couldn't sustain a chase over hours the way a human can grind one down across an entire afternoon. You don't need to be faster than a T-Rex. You just need to be more annoyingly stubborn than it is. And stubbornness has basically been our species' entire personality since day one. Numbers are the real superpower here, though. Alone, you lose to a raptor pack, no argument. But 6 people, spears out, standing shoulder to shoulder, holding a line, that's an entirely different animal to deal with. And every predator in this jungle instinctively knows it. This exact strategy, group coordination over brute strength, is how early humans took down actual mammoths without a single claw or fang of their own. Teamwork wasn't just a nice bonus. It was always the real weapon. And throwing things closes out the whole toolkit. A spear thrown from 20 feet away does the exact same damage as one jammed in at arm's length. minus the extremely important detail of you not standing next to the teeth while doing it. Distance is survival, and it's one of the oldest, dirtiest tricks in the entire human playbook. So, picture the whole day laid out from start to finish, sunrise, and a T-Rex spots you across an open plain. And you live because you already know it can't turn fast enough to catch you. Midday, and a raptor pack circles your group in the tall grass. And you live because 6 spears beat 1 claw every single time. Afternoon, and a Triceratops the size of a truck stomps past close enough to shake the ground under your feet. And you live because you had the sense to just walk the other way instead of finding out what those horns can do. Evening, and you're finally back at the fire. The one piece of technology nothing else in this entire world has ever learned to fear. And for the first time all day, you actually get to breathe. Alone and empty-handed in a world like this, your prey, plain and simple. The same way a lone human with no tools dropped into the Serengeti tonight would be lion food by morning, but hand you a spear, a fire, and 5 other people who've got your back, and this whole fight suddenly looks a lot less one-sided than it did the second that T-Rex started sprinting at you.